'64, a crucial moment in American history. Lyndon Johnson is re-elected to the presidency by a landslide, and after 5 scintillating years on the air,
Presto!
the Rocky and Bullwinkle show is abruptly canceled.
Canceled?
Sorry about that, boys. A lot has changed in 35 years. Velcro has replaced the zipper. Sneakers have lights on them. The Cold War is over. And the Rocky and Bullwinkle show is still canceled.
Well, as a tribute to my father after he died, I decided that maybe I should bring the characters into a realm that he hadn't taken them. And one of my primary things was new production, primarily in the motion picture arena. I really didn't want to compete terribly with him in the television arena. He did that so perfectly. So that was one of my decisions to go ahead and do motion pictures. We had to clear up some legal rights, so it took a number of years. But we've been working on the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie since about 1992.
It was really Jane Rosenthal who was the one who put it all together and worked for a long time, like many years, to get the thing started and going, and everybody involved.
Jane Rosenthal of Tribeca Productions, Robert De Niro's partner, came to me in 1992 and suggested we work on a movie together, and we tossed around a zillion different ideas, but keeping the characters true to what they were on television was the most important thing.
When I went into the Dudley Do-Right Emporium 5 years ago, it was really that I thought that Rocky and Bullwinkle could be a live-action animated movie. And that was really it. It was, you know, I didn't really have a story, but it was taking these characters from the 60s and putting them into, you know, the real contemporary world.
And in a little house at the top of the stump forest, Rocky and Bullwinkle themselves were forced to subsist on ever-diminishing residual checks from reruns of their old show. While the narrator, that's me, down on his luck and out of a job, was forced to move in with his mother, where he was reduced to narrating the events of his own life. With a speed and dexterity astonishing in a woman of her advancing years, Mother bastes the chicken, tosses the salad, and mashes the potatoes.
Oh, Sonny, shut up!
Ow!
We also had to address what happened to Boris and Natasha now that the Cold War was over, and what were they going to do in the 90s? And Rocky and Bullwinkle we last saw in 1960.
Her to sign a contract for acquiring the rights to the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. And when she reaches into the television to sign the contract, Fearless Leader refuses to let go. When she yanks to get the contract out, she pulls the cartoon villains out of the television set. The basic idea is that Boris and Natasha come to America with Fearless Leader. Once the Iron Curtain falls, he realizes that the next logical step for him is to become a media mogul, and that's the kind of, perhaps, you know, that's the best place for an Eastern European dictator to go. So they plan to, in fact, buy up all of the cable television in America to start a network called RBTV, or Really Bad Television.
There are people out there that get Rocky and Bullwinkle that are absolutely passionate about these characters, and Des was one of those. He felt that passion, and in his pitches to us on his directorial notes and stuff, he definitely got it. And I'd say that was, without a doubt, his best-selling feature. I always look for the passion in people that they get Rocky and Bullwinkle. They either have it or they don't.
Sympathy, you've got exactly 46 hours to get Rocky and Bullwinkle to New York and shut down Fearless Leader's broadcast.
Thank you, sir. I won't fail.
Just be careful. We've already lost 3 of our best agents, so good luck.
Oh, sir, just one thing. How do I get Rocky and Bullwinkle out of reruns?
I don't know. Fearless Leader and those other 2 got out somehow, didn't they? Figure it out!
Rocky and Bullwinkle remain as animated characters throughout, and they arrive in a different manner. Karen Sympathy, the head of the girl, our FBI girl who brings them out of syndication so they can help stop Fearless Leader. She actually green lights them, and there's literally a 80-foot green light that she turns on, and the beam of light sucks them up and delivers them to Hollywood. So they remain cartoons the whole time.
This was a key element, certainly to me, is how are Rocky and Bullwinkle going to look now that there's all this new technology? We've always seen them as 2D characters.
Goodbye, Sonny.
I'll be back for hiatus, Ma.
Hang on, Rocky.
And so we've actually created what we call 2.5D. Rather than go to the full 3D, we want them to look very much like they did in the animated show, but we want to give them dimension. So we've come up with this term 2.5D, and they look, they look slightly different only because they've got dimension now.
Hokey Smoke, are you all right?
Yeah, but I think we're on the wrong show. Look how well they drew that girl.
The basic difference between the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie and, let's say, Space Jam is that our characters are created digitally. And because of that, we can create the illusion that they occupy three-dimensional space.
We don't want to lose the essence of the characters, and so it is really a fine balance of what we're trying to do. And of course, people's are so much more sophisticated. They're used to looking at much more complex kinds of animation these days. But the original was a fairly limited animation, and it had a particular look to it. And as I said, that there's a charm. There's still a charm to it. But what we'd like to do is bring it into the real world. The characters are coming out into the real world. So there's certain things that I think we'll do that will definitely add to the integration ability of the characters themselves. They'll be much more dimensional, they'll cast shadows, they'll interact with the real world, which they haven't done as far as I'm aware before.
You really have to learn to project the characters into the scene. We have puppets that we can drop in to look at. We have reference shots, that show us Rocky and Bullwinkle. We have the ability digitally right on the set to drop in an image of the characters just to check eye line and that sort of thing.
First we go through the storyboards, and then we work with puppets, and then a lot of times the ILM guys will stand in for Rocky and Bullwinkle and act out the scene with me, especially if Rocky and Bullwinkle are off camera and we're doing a scene. And they rehearse with me a lot of times and walk around like Bullwinkle and talk like him, and then once we've done it a bunch of times, we just take everything away and do it with nothing.
The great advantage in this, being able to render them digitally is that when Karen's sympathy looks into Bullwinkle's eyes, you'll really believe that she's looking in his eyes.
Rocky and Bull.
I believe the word you're searching for is winkle.
Bullwinkle.
Hey, what network are you from?
I'm not from any network. Agent Karen Sympathy?
FBI.
Karen's sympathy is an idealist in an age where idealism isn't very fashionable and perhaps not always even that practical. And she comes face to face with her childhood heroes and has to confront herself, in a sense. And it's,
save the world, but she thinks that that's not what an FBI agent is supposed to be like. So she tries very hard to be gruff and unemotional and mean and, tries and save people FBI way. Very harsh, but she's not very good at it.
I really have high hopes that America's going to fall in love with this girl. I mean, when she walked in and auditioned, as a director, it's the kind of moment you wait for, because if I'm right, it's something I'll remember all my life. That I happened to be there when she did her first screen test, and I think she's going to bring. I think one of the surprising things about Rocky and Bullwinkle is that it's extremely funny, as you would expect, but it has heart.
Moose and Squirrel.
Moose and Squirrel. How many times in the past have they stood between me and my dreams of glory? How many times have they foiled my plans with their bungling interference?
28?
Quiet, idiot!
When Jane came to approach me the first time, she said that Bob was possibly interested in playing Boris. Now, our family history was such that we laughed all the time. And I really just burst out in hysterics, thinking what my father would think about Robert De Niro, this premier dramatic actor, wanting to play his character Boris. I thought it was fabulous.
He always thought it could be, you know, fun to do that kind of caricature, cartoon-like role. So we always, you know, I guess it was always in our mind that he could do Fearless Leader.
Jane had suggested that Mr. De Niro might be willing to play Fearless Leader, which of course was, you know, that falls under that category of when do I wake up, you know, having Robert De Niro as Fearless Leader.
Bob wanted to test all kinds of things, so he went through a very extensive process in, you know, testing the look of his hair, the nose, the ears, eyeglasses, you know, the whole wardrobe. Marlene Stewart was fantastic in working with us on that.
But I see kids on the street with that kind of look, and I knew that, you know, I'd have some allies out there.
Are you talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. So you must be talking to me. And you are lying!
I was intimidated by De Niro when I first walked on the set. And I'm not intimidated by too many people. And I didn't think I was going to be at all. But he's just got this presence. I don't know exactly, I can't put my finger on it, but he made me nervous.
I've had some experience with material like this. I don't know that he ever has. So for him, it was a whole new world, and I think it required more effort to be silly. I can be silly at the drop of a hat.
I had fun doing it. The cartoons are good. They're clever and smart, witty.
It's been great watching him work and also, you know, just discussing the process with him. I think he's helped me in terms of the, you know, our work together and also with the other actors.
After 30 years of waiting, one more chance to crush Moose in school.
Oh, Fearless Leader, you are so good to us.
In terms of Renee and Natasha, you know, there were some obvious choices. She wasn't the most obvious choice, but somebody who, when Kenny and I were working on the script for a number of years, we had always envisioned Renee actually in the role of Karen's sympathy. It was just always something that we kept saying, oh, that's Renee Russo's part. So Kenny and I had always envisioned Renee in this movie in some way, and when it came up that she was available and interested in doing Natasha, it was, you know, a real obvious choice for us.
We don't need computer weapon to kill Moose and Squirrel. We've been trying to kill Moose and Squirrel for 35 years.
And we never even come close.
Exactly.
The script's clever, and I thought I love the idea of the world being zombified from bad television. I thought that was great. So I love the script. It was an intelligent comedy, and I love that. And the first thing I thought about was Natasha and her clothes, hair, and makeup. I just thought it was a great opportunity to look different.
I really wasn't sure whether it would be something that interested her, or, you know, whether it would be something that would be, you know, whether the glove would fit neatly. But I went to meet her, flew back to New York and drove out to meet her. She was on another set, and it became really clear that she was really passionate about playing Natasha Fatale.
I walk in the door and there's June Foray, and she did the original voice of Natasha. And I thought, oh good, they have June Foray here to make me look like an idiot. I was so self-conscious that I just said, June, could you read a couple lines for me? And she did. Oh, she was so wonderful. But she was so gracious, and so I was pretty nervous the first time.
Well, darling, we will do what we can do, that's all.
Boris, don't you want to have little Boris? Hmm? Little Natasha? Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful? We could rent cottage by sea of Pennsylvania and teach them how to lie and cheat and be rotten. They would be worst children in the world. They would be monsters. It would be awful.
Well, when you sort of looked around, there were just a handful of people that you could really say could emulate Boris in a real specific way. And Jason was really our first choice.
Jason has said himself that he's, and it's true, that he's just, born to play Boris Badenov, and it's true, he just is.
Stop! You're embarrassing me.
The voice of Boris, I have to doff my hat to Jay Ward for coming up with it. We're just trying as best we can to get, back down to that beautiful sound that he had. The body movement, there's a wonderful coach, Lynn Hockney, who works with us, but everybody's at a disadvantage because the cartoon was done so inexpensively that basically the only thing that moved was arms and mouths. That was it. So you never saw Boris and Natasha. You saw them run very quickly, but you never saw them walk. So we're guessing. And, the only thing I could think of was that Boris always stands with his feet turned out. So starting from there, I said, well, if he stands like that, maybe he walks like that. And if he walks like that, well, then maybe he walks like this. And then another part of it just came from always trying, I mean, I am much shorter than Renee, but always trying to even shorten it more. I kind of got into that slouch thing. And then I thought, he might be very paranoid about the real world. So this whole kind of, what's going on, can I trust anyone kind of thing started to happen. And it all just kind of happened together, you find it on its feet.
Jason's just so easy to work with. He really is, because he's so responsive. So if I do something that's an improv, he's just like right there. And actually, I'm not as good as he is. So if he improvs, usually I can, I'm not as fast as he is, but usually I can pretty much keep up with him. But I think he makes it easy to work with him.
Oh my God. Oh my God, it's Rocky and Bullwinkle. Oh my God, I love it. Oh, I love your
Your
show.
Honor.
I totally.
And you, Mr. District Attorney, I'd like to point something out to you in the Penal Code, Section C, Paragraph 22. Celebrities are above the law. This case is dismissed.
When I first came in to talk to the studio about the movie before I had the job, one of my suggestions was, let's do a whole series of cameos.
I don't like moose pictures.
And the thing is that one actor attracts another. Do you know what I mean? So before too long, we had a kind of head of steam going.
This truck matches the description of a vehicle reported stolen outside Red Bank, Oklahoma, just a couple hours ago. You are under arrest for grand theft auto and for impersonating FBI agent Karen Sympathy.
So we've ended up with, Whoopi Goldberg, John Goodman, Billy Crystal, Keenan and Kel, who were my first impulse for these two What's the Matter You college students.
What's the matter, you?
My old alma mater.
Bullwinkle was a big football star at What's the Matter, you?
Quarterback.
I thought you looked familiar.
And it was just great for the crew because, it's such a lift, when you're on these difficult schedules that suddenly you have Jonathan Winters there.
Keep your hands high above your head. Just to think, it's the opening of moose season.
It was great to sort of inject that energy into the production.
We gotta get out of here fast.
Quick, let's go to a commercial.
In a way, I think Rocky and Bullwinkle, as ludicrous as this might sound, it kind of speaks to our time, and even with a comedy, you want some kind of underpinning that makes you feel like what you're doing is worthwhile. And we parachuted these two little pop icons from the Cold War into our own age, and they really have something to show us.
Yes, without trees, where would the birdies live? Forced to migrate to the cities, they would take jobs away from local pigeons.
Bullwinkle.
I don't think Bullwinkle ever fully understands what the story of the movie's about. He's focused on saving the animated forest in Frostbite Falls, and as far as he's concerned, that's what the movie's about. On the other hand, Bullwinkle has a very close relationship with Rocky, and things happen to him. So Bullwinkle definitely goes through his, vulnerable periods, which isn't exactly the same as a character arc, but it's, I suppose experiential nonetheless.
Bullwinkle, the speech starts any minute.
I knew we shouldn't have left him. Bullwinkle and I have never been apart in 35 years.
Rocky's lost a certain amount of faith, in himself because he hasn't been flying. And, I think maybe mirroring the feelings in our own times a little bit, tongue-in-cheek, of course, but, And when he discovers, when he can fly again, he's able to kind of transfer, I suppose, that self-belief and confidence and again, idealism to Karen.
It gets a little frustrating for her, I think, sometimes because, you know, like in the scene today, there's this huge car accident and she's all bruised and scraped and, you know, trying to hold it together. And they're fine, you know, they're cartoon characters, so they never get hurt and they're always happy and they're always cracking these lame jokes when she's trying to, you know, be serious and not have any fun, and they're always happy, and she wants to be tough and stern, and they're always kind of being funny.
You know, it's like you know, I think like all hopefully good comedy, there's always some kind of serious, you know, underpinning.
Sorry, Rocky, I've really done it this time.
Don't worry, Karen. You need the most faith when things look the most hopeless.
Thanks, Rocky.
I think you can actually take your kids to this with you know, real pride. Say, I remember these cartoons when I was a kid. I think if you're a kid, you can actually take your parents to it without fear that they're going to be, you know, without any fear that they're going to be, you know, bored. And I think teens are going to love it. I think teens are going to love Piper. I know teenage boys are going to love Piper. So I have real hopes for this thing.
And I think that well-written comedy is going to hit, you know, an adult, if not more strongly than a child. I think, you know, a lot of the physical comedy will hit all ages, but I think, you know, the writing is very witty.
The puns and double entendres ought to play for a grown-up audience while the kids sit there and go, oh my gosh, look, there's a moose and a squirrel running around and these weird cartoon characters are now people. You know, it should deliver on both of those levels.
I think it's for both kids and adults, and it's great. I did Buddy, and that was for kids, and I really enjoyed doing that. And so now I've got 2 films that my daughter can go and see, so I love that.
I think they can expect a wonderful all-family property with a tremendous amount of humor, and the adults certainly will feel that, you know, baby boomer nostalgia pull back to their childhood when they watched Rocky and Bullwinkle. And their kids are already watching it. It's been on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. So I'm hoping that it's just a delightful all-family comedy that everybody enjoys.
Well, it's been great. Had to bring Rock out of the old squirrel retirement home where he's been gathering nuts for the last 36 years. But Rock has a little bit of trouble remembering how to fly. Now, that's all we're going to tell you. But Rock and I suddenly end up just like in the old days. We live again.
Thank you.